It ain't no secret, I'm always carrying one of these. A handgun. Not necessarily this outstanding Kel-Tec PF9. Previously reviewed, highly recommended here in the Nut and Fancy project. By the way, that's riding in a much used, very comfortable, highly concealable Galco Classic Light suede holster. Both of them reviewed, recommended. But I'm always packing a gun. Duty status or in my civilian status, or in my civilian life better said, a gun comes along for the ride. It is a last-ditch self-defense option. I've talked about it in several philosophy videos, the concealed carry protocol, the sheepdog concept. A lot of serious considerations go along for the ride when you decide to pack that gun, just like I've discussed. And honestly, again, I really want to emphasize it, it is a last-ditch option. When I just don't have any other options to me, you know, I can't talk my way out of it, I can't flee, there's just not time to diffuse the situation. I actually like putting several other options in front of the gun. Especially, you know, in a civilian capacity when I have options to carry pretty much whatever I want, according to the law, of course. You know, previous days and still these days, I'll carry perhaps pepper spray. You know, maybe that size container, maybe this size container. That's from First Defense, UDAP is that brand. Excellent. You know, there's lots of great pepper sprays. I like 10% OC. Maybe I'll do a review on them one time. They're not perfect though. You know, pepper sprays have some serious disadvantages. You know, the wind, environmental concerns, it can blow it right back into the, you know, the user's face, incapacitating you. Lots of failures to stop for mace and OC too. PDs all across the country see this all the time. They'll shoot a guy right in the face that's doped up, super motivated, enraged, whatever. He keeps on coming. Nevertheless, it is a good option. It's cost effective, and it beats your fists in a lot of situations, right? It's a layer prior to me having to resort to the gun, no doubt. Maybe there's a situation I can diffuse with pepper spray. Another one, where did it go? I thought I had it. Oh yeah, police baton. I love the police baton. Huge fan. Specifically the ASP aluminum 21-inch, the same one you're looking at here. Why? Because SAWC, size and weight constraint. It's very easy to take along. You know, it's relatively affordable. But like all non-lethal alternatives, it's going to have some downsides. I think a couple big downsides, I hope I remember all, is first, it's going to need training. You kind of got to know what you're doing with a police baton. Okay, train with it. You know, and I train on a defensive tactics bag with mine. Am I the best baton user in the world? Nope. But I feel fairly confident I can take a dude down with it. And actually, this is both an advantage and a disadvantage. You can actually go lethal with a baton, depending on where you strike the subject. You go above the shoulders, in most localities, that's considered a lethal impact. And maybe that's what the situation would call for, heaven forbid, like I always say. But, you know, maybe not, and be careful with that. Another disadvantage is that it's not legal in a lot of places. Neither is pepper spray. You know, a lot of localities, cities, they have laws and restrictions against those two items. Okay, and maybe another disadvantage is you're going to have to close with a suspect. Same with pepper spray. You're going to have to get relatively close, and you can almost guarantee at that distance you're going to get physical. Okay, you're going to, whether you want to or not, you're probably going to go hand to hand, and these will come into play with both of these items if you choose to use them. You know, maybe you'll go with an impact device, you know, something that you can do joint locks or something. There's a Koga SD from Cold Steel. Excellent. You talk about high value. That's high value. You know, and it will work. I mean, you take that, you smack someone in the thigh with that hard, you're talking pain compliance. But it ain't perfect. You know, this is a close combat weapon. And what I'm trying to say is when you get into close proximity with a bad guy, your chances of getting jacked up are going to be pretty high. Okay, there ain't no guarantees that you're not going to get injured in the process. And maybe it will escalate in the force continuum, which was so important that early on in the Nut and Fancy project, I talked to that. There's an annotation right there. And you may have to end up going to your gun because now, for whatever reason, it's gone lethal. You tried to prevent it going lethal. It's going lethal, you know, and I'm talking you've exhausted all the other options. Okay? These are still all viable options, and I don't mean to act like they're not good. And I still use each one of these to this day. It just depends on the situation. Cost effective, cost effective, cost effective. They do have limitations. Be aware of those limitations, but I am a big fan, we're talking the use of the gun, of putting things in front of your gun to give you more options to handle a situation, to not take a human life if you possibly can avoid it. Okay, the sanctity of life. I'll talk about that more in the future. Even bad guys, I mean, don't. I mean, people are, you know, they have different phases in their life. They're doing stupid stuff. You know, maybe it's best to subdue them. You know, don't kill unless you have no options whatsoever. These things help. Okay, as good as these are, like I said, limitations. What am I carrying these days? I'm talking non-lethal defense right here. Here comes your talking points. All right, I'm still packing the gun, yo. You know what I'm saying? That is the safety net. Okay, whether I'm on duty, off duty, I'm armed all the time, ready to access my weapon for whatever happens, using good judgment, maturity, all the stuff I talked about. But nowadays, what's coming along for the ride is this right here. #1 non-lethal self-defense choice, as of 2010 at least, the Taser C2. In a nutshell, if you don't have time to watch the rest of the video, they are, they are outstanding. Outstanding. In a lot of ways, they overcome the disadvantages of these and perform the same service in what is usually, and I will say usually, not always, a very reliable fashion. Taser technology has been around a while. It is not new. Totally realize that. Some TMPers might be wondering, you know, well, 2010, why do a review now? Well, in a nutshell, I will say, price. You know, the tasers of days past were just too expensive for me personally. You know, what, around $400? I don't know, somewhere around there. It was just to where I looked at the price, and I knew the technology worked. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I just wasn't attracted due to price. I mean, too many other things were vying for my dollars, just like you know, trying to complete your other systems. You know, maybe a tactical carbine, some pistol systems, LVE, preparedness kits, and there's, you know, don't even mention the everyday bills of everyday life, you know. It was just too much. So yeah, they had limitations, but I would opt for a more affordable alternative that, yeah, it generally works if you use it correctly, and it's lightweight, cost effective. Well, 2009, the price dropped on the C2 system, like a lot, to the point where I'm suddenly interested in this technology that, let's jump right into the TPs. It works. It absolutely works, and that's why I'm going to recommend it highly as a top, if not first choice for non-lethal self-defense, if you can afford it. Okay? Is it 100% effective? I'll say, let's just address that right off. No, it ain't. What is? You know, it ain't. The police baton is not 100% effective. You know, pepper spray, OC, mace, not 100% effective. The gun, not 100% effective. I don't care what caliber you're sending downrange. You know, there's all kinds of failures of all types of calibers to stop and completely subdue the bad guy. So many factors involved, you know, no matter what device you're talking about, whether it's a C2 handgun, you know, baton, whatever. I'm going to try to explain, though, the technology of the C2 and why I think it just rocks as best I can. It goes something like this. There's a cartridge right here. That snaps into the front of your C2 taser. Okay, that has compressed nitrogen in it, and it pops out, check this out, I love it, these sick-looking harpoon-like probes at 100 miles an hour. How sick are those? Yep, and they embed into the skin of your adversary. Awesome. Yeah, man, that's just, I gotta laugh, man, because those are nasty. Like mini whaling harpoons, they're just like fish hooks. They'll go through about 2 inches of clothing, too. And if they get a good divergence, in other words, the probes are more than 4 inches apart, better yet, like maybe a foot or two apart, generally speaking, the guy is going to go down. And it's not reliant on pain compliance. Okay, that's a very important point to understand about the taser technology. This isn't hype, by the way. This is just fact stuff that I'm trying to transmit to you. Okay, pain compliance. Ask police baton. Kind of is along those lines, right? I mean, you could do physical damage, break a bone, and then it's not really, well, maybe it is pain, but then it's, you know, physically he just cannot stay on his feet because you just broke his femur. Okay, same with a gun. I mean, you could incapacitate that way. But again, that's the lethal thing that we're trying to avoid using. Pepper spray, that's kind of a pain compliance, although it affects the sensories, you know, whatever, sight, vision, smell, you know, tear ducts, but not pain compliance. What Taser calls it is neuromuscular incapacitation. Okay, and they're tapping in the ability to affect the sensory and motor functions of your bad guy. Sensory is, of course, info to the brain, temperature, touch, motor. Commands from the brain to control muscle movement. That includes involuntary responses. Okay, what the taser does is affect that electrical transmission. You see, I'm my brain sends a signal via electricity, because your whole body runs on electricity, tells my hand to contract. This disrupts that whole process. Okay, so what we're talking about is it doesn't really matter if the guy is drugged up, super motivated, pissed off, MMA, whatever, Mr. Bad Guy coming at you. You're tapping into his electrical system and it's going to shut him down. Assuming, and it generally does work, that these probes make good contact and there is sufficient divergence, just like I said. Okay, the divergence is like 8 degrees is what taser says. You don't need to remember this. It's 1 inch for every 7 feet distance. I hope I got that right. If I didn't, I'll annotate it. That you shoot it. So they're basically coming out at an angle. You remember when we were at the Impact Guns visit? We totally did a test shoot with a C2 taser. Dr. Heckles and myself, and it rocked. I mean, the guy shot the C2 and perfect pattern divergence. I mean, the harpoons, I call them harpoons, the barbs stuck in the dude's chest and then right in his groin. How hilarious is that? Perfect pattern. I guarantee you, if you shot Mr. Bad Guy just like Heckles did there, I can't guarantee it, but high percentage, the dude is going down. Not pain compliance, but you're tapping into the electrical system. He has heavy clothing on. I mean, as long as it's not too heavy, it will still work. When these mini harpoons contact Mr. Bad Guy, check those suckers out. You gotta love it. By the way, if you haven't figured it out, this is a fired cartridge out of a C2 with just the wires wrapped around it. But when these suckers embed into the flesh of your adversary, thus begins a 30-second shock fest delivered by the Taser C2. It's not 30 seconds of continuous shocking. It's actually what Taser refers to as shaped pulse energy bursts. Okay, in layman's terms, it means that throughout that 30-second period, it will administer shocks. Okay, it'll turn off, it'll turn off. I'm sorry, turn on, then it'll turn off. Okay, you saw that in the demo fire. I'll roll it in the footage here somewhere when we did it at Impact Guns. And by the way, guys will say, hey, well, nothing fancy, why don't you get shot with it? Are you freaking crazy? These things are painful. Painful. I'm going to annotate a hilarious video of a dude getting hit by a taser. It's a YouTube viral video in his backyard. I hope they don't remove it. If it does, I'll just put a different one up there. That's a good demo of the taser, how it works. They work, and there's lots of videos out there. So, no, I ain't getting hit by one. Maybe one day, but not for the review. I asked a couple TMP crew members, hey, can I shoot you with a taser for my review? And they're like, no way, dude. I don't blame them. It hurts. You know, guys that have been shot by it, a couple of the staff members at Impact Guns have been shot by C2s, and the first thing that they say is, it hurts bad, and it pretty much paralyzes you. You just cannot do what you were trying to do. You know, just like that video I annotated showed you. It's hilarious. Okay, so 30 seconds of shaped energy burst out of the C2, and actually out of the entire lineup, as of 2010, the C2 is my first choice. It really is, and that is one primary reason. Because in the civilian version, they're trying to give you enough time to escape Mr. Bad Guy. And they recommend is after you shoot your C2, place it on the ground, book it. You're out of there. Okay, and it'll continue to do its job. Just leveling the dude, man. I think it's hilarious. There's other models in the lineup. Civilian capable, completely legal for you to own, just like these ones, like this one. The X26C. Okay, this is the civilian version of the police X26. Has a few variations. Has a 15-foot range, and it just administers a 10-second shaped energy burst. Okay, and yeah, that 10 seconds is a painful and very long 10 seconds. For other reasons, though, I prefer the C2. Primarily SAWC, size and weight constraints. This is slimmer, easier to carry. Love it. So effectiveness, absolutely. You know, it doesn't matter if the guy is a trained and focused fighter. Maybe your suspect, whatever you want to call him, bad guy, adversary, you know, is very motivated, has a high pain tolerance, he's drugged out. From all my research, talking to all my law enforcement contacts, it don't matter. You know, if you get the probes to impact more than 4 inches away from each other, a good contact, it's going to be nasty, and that dude's going to go down. Very effective. Moving on, talking points, range. Taser C2, 15 feet is its range. That's a variation from the law enforcement versions. This isn't it, but it looks just like it, the X26. Those LE ranges can go out to 21, 25, and 35 feet. Okay, is that a disadvantage? Nothing fancy? I mean, 15 feet doesn't sound very long, does it? Well, you'd be surprised. Take a tape measure, measure out 15 feet, and it's probably longer, or let me say, further away than you would think. And I think for the role we're putting this in, the POU, you know, a primary non-lethal self-defense item, 15 feet absolutely rocks. Here's another reason I like it over the X26C. Compactness, I already mentioned that, but the cartridges are more compact as well. Okay, again, here's a representation of the C2 cartridge, and I will take this X26C version out. Look at the size difference. When you have a longer range cartridge, that means you have more wire that needs to be wrapped into that, you know, area, that space, and it's going to be bulkier. Okay, 15 feet is adequate for my purposes. Probably will be for yours as well. That gives you some standoff capabilities, by the way, when we're talking about range. Excuse me. Remember I was talking about the other ones? Let's just say the police baton, for instance. This is a close contact weapon. You're going to close with a guy. You're going to go hand to hand. You know, it's going to be, you know, in your face, probably bloody, and you may get injured in the process. That is a huge advantage of the C2 Taser, is you have standoff capability. Okay, it rocks. I mean, 15 feet, that's a long distance. It's basically like a gun, not in its lethality, but it's an effectiveness and its deterrence. And that you have that standoff capability so you don't have to tangle with a guy. And in a lot of ways, it's an equalizer. You know, for women, people who aren't strong, maybe they're sick, you know, they cannot go hand to hand with a guy, whatever. C2, baby. Good range. Standoff capabilities, absolutely. When you fire it, try to get you can get it into the thigh. Torso would be my target. You know, I'm not going to try for the guy's head for sure, because you don't want, again, we're not trying to kill the guy. We're just trying to incapacitate him, keep him doing for what he's doing. We don't want that barb to go in his eye. You know, if you're a little bit off on your shot, it could happen. And actually, in their book, Taser talks about, you know, some considerations like, hey, you know, be advised, this could happen. Okay, most versions of the C2 will have the laser. This one is not activated, as evidenced by the red light. But check this out. Well, I can't use that one. Let me use this one, the black C2. This is my daily C2, by the way, carried in the holster. Love it. This one's activated. I'll talk about that here in a second. Be careful not to hit that button when you open it up. Point it in the safe direction. There's the green arrow, or green light. Laser. See that laser right there? You don't see it? Let me turn this light off right here. Nice. Integrated light. I'm kind of getting into special features here. And a laser. Okay, again, deterrence. And it helps you aim, too. Okay, remember the divergence of the probes? We want decent divergence. What you need to remember is you don't want a really super close shot. In other words, from here to the table, not good. You want to get back a little bit to give those, you know, probes a chance to spread out. The wider apart they are, the better and more effective those shaped energy bursts are going to be on Mr. Bad Guy. Okay, excellent. Oh, by the way, in that range, the 15 foot, makes it hard to take away. You know, I close with a guy with a police baton. You know, if he's stronger than me, you know, more motivated than me, he doesn't care if he dies. I mean, chances are, not chances are, it could happen, depending on who you are. Maybe that's taken away from you and it's used on you. How bad would that suck? Okay, again, this is a disadvantage of these other items I've shown you. C2 Taser, you have standoff. You're 15 feet away. You know, as he comes in, deterrence, hey, back off, dude. No, I'm not going to back off. All right, here you go. Check this out. Pop. By the way, when this thing goes off, sounds like a 22 shot. Yep. As the compressed nitrogen deploys the probes. Oh, here we're going in special features. Talked about the range. When that cartridge is expended, okay, and it's done, you can still use your Taser C2. I want to take this cartridge out very carefully, keeping my fingers clear. This is, again, a live C2. I'm going to open up the door. Okay, I just fired it, and let's say there's an expended cartridge in there. And by the way, you can reload the C2. Just take another cartridge after, remember, after the 30 seconds. Very, very important point, by the way. Wait, and then you can change it if you need to. They do recommend leaving it on the ground and booking it, just like I said. But once you take the cartridge out like this, you still have capabilities with the C2 Taser. Check this out. Sick. That is awesome. Close the door if you want it to end. In that mode, it is a stun gun. And by the way, I don't want guys to confuse the C2 taser as being a stun gun. It is far beyond that. Only when the cartridge is taken out and we're using it just like I showed you, is it a pain compliant stun gun. You know, when you're talking about the cartridge and the probes, it is not pain compliance. It's tapping into primary, not primary, but sensory and motor functions. You dig? Special features. I love that they included a light. Is it super, super bright? Well, not really. But it's something, and at, I don't know, 10 feet, it still gives usable light, especially in pitch black darkness. Well, I already talked about the reloadable feature of it, and it's easy enough to do. Yes, you'll be under stress. Do I recommend reloading it? Well, again, remember, it's 30 seconds of electrical pulse. If you are to touch that cartridge, by the way, during the 30-second administration of the Pain Fest, you're going to get shocked. Don't do it. Okay, so if you want to reload it, you're going to close your door, turn it off, pop it out, put in a new cartridge, and off to the races you go. Doable. By the way, when that cartridge blows, and I think I was wrong in a previous video, I think it was like the, I don't know, the breast cancer awareness thing, I said like thousands of tags. It's actually 24 ID tags that tell which unit it was. And yes, you do have to register the C2. It's not through NICS. You actually do it through this Taser website. That'll go on until about January 2012 is what Taser tells me, and then they'll do away with it. Not the registration, but there's a fee associated, like $10. You'll register your serial number to you, and yes, I think it's probably a good thing. That way we don't have a bunch of guys going out there and using them, I don't know, like paintball guns, creating havoc, using them on, you know, innocent people as a joke, some warped individuals out there. They can track it to you. Is the bottom line, is what you need to know. There is activation needed. That blue Taser C2 is not activated until you go through the process on their website. As of now, pay the fee. Again, as of 2012, they're telling me the fee will go away. They'll give you a code, and you'll punch in a certain number of punches on your serial number, and it'll activate your C2. The green light will become active, and you're off to the races. Incidentally, if you ever use it in an actual shooting, I'm talking a taser incident, self-defense variety, and there's a police report filed, they'll replace it free of charge. They'll go verify it. Yes, it was legitimate use of the taser device from a responsible citizen. Bam, here comes your free taser in the mail. Excellent. There are some special features. On to legalities. Some guys might say, well, okay, nothing fancy. Taser C2, it sounds like it really rocks, and it does. But man, it's probably not going to be legal where I live. Nope. That's the beauty of the Taser C2. It is actually more legal in more locations than these two devices, at least. You know, the pepper spray, the police baton, the Taser C2. Dudes, I'm saying, I'm going to annotate right now where it's not legal, subject to change, but it has a wide legality, kind of like in the People's Republic of California. Yes, the Taser C2, as of 2010 at least, is legal. Awesome. It's a great choice. To me, it's, I don't know, maybe a notch or two under the gun in stopping bad people from doing bad things. Okay? Legalities and caveats. I already told you guys about you have to register. It's registered to you. Use it wisely. It's definitely not something I would use capriciously. You know, it's going to be, you know, used carefully with a sense of judgment and responsibility. And again, even before I get to the C2 Taser, this almost is ridiculous to say, but I got to say it. I'm going to do my best to prevent use of this even. I mean, this is a barrier, if you will, to my handgun that I'm carrying. I already told you that. But it's also, I'm going to do everything in my power not to use my C2. And that includes being aware of our environment, what's going on around us. Can we extricate ourselves from that area, get out of there? Can I talk myself out of it? You know, is there any way I can defuse it verbally? Say, you know, hey, sorry, you know, if it makes you look bad, who cares? It's much preferred. And then if you don't have options, you got a Taser C2 to go to. I probably forgot some stuff under legalities and caveats. Training. Disadvantage of these, like I said, you got to train with them to be good with them. And you got to practice with them. Training one time ain't enough. It's going to have to be a skill set that you use over and over again. So you get your muscle memory down pat, you know your technique down pat, so under stress you're able to employ it. Advantage C2. It doesn't take a lot of training. Okay, very little. You just need to know how to use the thing, right? Again, this is a deactivated C2, but you open up the actuation door and you press the button and fire it. that's it. Okay, and most models, and I highly recommend getting the ones with a laser built in. Watch out, there are some ones that just have 2 lights, 2 LEDs. You don't want those. Get the laser integrated into the C2. Helps you aim. There's your training. Now, practicing the reload, you know, and understanding, this is a fired cartridge, by the way, so a fired cartridge is harder to remove since the wires are still in the bundle. You know, the reload is a little bit, you know, a little bit something something. You have to practice, but that's it. Training is easy. Portability, it rocks. About the same weight as a 21-inch ASP aluminum police baton, actually a little bit lighter. I'll annotate the exact weight. Very carryable. I know because I've been carrying it for the last, I don't know, 4 months or so in this holster. And by the way, here's the accessory holster, purchased separately from Taser, made by Tough apparently, and it rocks. I love the holster. I haven't had any issues with it. Clip it on my belt, or yes, my fanny pack. Deal with it, and along for the ride it goes. Very quick to access. Portability is excellent. You can carry it in your pocket if you want to. Look how slim and trim it is. Again, that's another reason I like the C2 over the X26C. Subject to change. Probably forgot some stuff there. Dependability. The battery, first off, lasts a long time. Oh, by the way, 8.2 ounces this sucker is. The battery, I forget the exact life on it, but it's a lithium battery and it's good for so many charges. I will annotate that if I can find it. And it's good in all types of weather, you know, heat, rain, snow. It works. Element resistant. Is it waterproof? Nope, it's not, so be careful. However, it is shock resistant. I know because I've dropped my unit onto the concrete and it still works. I test fired it after that. Perfect. But pretty tough, not waterproof. Dependable as far as is it going to work when you need it to. I haven't heard any complaints. Not yet. Might be a few out there, don't know. I haven't heard any. Here's the information on the battery. Lithium battery, it's good for 50, 30-second firings. It just attaches right there at the rear of the C2. By the way, the LED will talk to you on the battery status. Okay, as long as you have a green LED, that means your battery is good. If it goes to yellow color, it's probably needing replacement. Okay, so just something to think about. And I don't know if I mentioned this, if you do fire a cartridge, I'll do this, and you go into what they call drive stun mode, that right there, go for the carotid, upper chest, forearm, pelvic, common peroneal, that's outside of the thigh, or tibial areas for maximum effective. Yes, it's pain compliance. Beats the fist though. And when we talk about dependability, one more thing I'll mention. 5 years on the cartridges until they recommend replacement. My suspicion is they're going to be good well beyond that. Quality. This is another reason I'm turned on to the C2. After having examined it, you guys know how I am. I am very particular on, you know, build quality. This thing is solid. As evidence, like I said, dropping it on the concrete still works. It's put together well. It's not hokey. If you handle a C2 at your local gun dealer, whoever carries it in your area, you'll see exactly what I mean. This thing is solid. It has a good design. The cover is very secure. I haven't seen any malfunctions of it yet. In other words, does it pop open? Is it not positive in its detents? No. Power button is, you know, built right. Everything that I see about the C2, I think, will stand the test of time. Whew, lots to say. Value. Like I said, it's a lot higher now than it used to be. The price now is very doable for the capabilities you're getting. Now, someone rolls in and goes, well, that's still way too expensive. Well, I'm not going to say it's cheap. It ain't cheap still, even in 2010. But remember the disadvantages of all the other things I was saying. And the C2 Taser, and actually many of them, all the models in the Taser lineup overcome those disadvantages, right? So you put a price tag on it. That's why I'm doing the review. I think it's worth it. I wouldn't be putting it in front of the camera if I didn't think it was worth it. Good value for what it is. I'm going to recommend right there in the upper right the place to go for your Taser C2. Great prices there, as usual. Okay, and you can probably use a nothing fancy code there, I think. I'll annotate that if it's available. I don't mention it in video because it may change over the years, but right now, that's where I'm recommending to go buy those. Excellent value for the capabilities. Track record. Let's look to the law enforcement community for this, because Tasers have been in operation with police officers for a long time. I mean, we go back to 1998, the M18 came out. 1999, the advanced M18 came out. 2004, the X26C came out. That's the civilian version, this one right here. And then in July 2007, C2 came out in 4 colors. Oh, and that's another thing I forgot to mention. All kinds of different colors. Pink, blue, black. I think they have a red one out there. Well, there they are right there in the literature. Duh! You know, if your wife wants to have a good non-lethal self-defense option, and by the way, for Christmas time, guys, what a great gift. I'm not even messing with you. What a great gift. You give a Taser C2, hugs and kisses, baby. Thanks so much for hooking me up. Track record is excellent. I kind of got distracted there. Police departments report great success. Does it have failures to stop? Yeah, it does. Everything does. Usually because there was some probe malfunction. Either it stuck maybe in a leather belt and no circuit was made, or it didn't penetrate the clothing, or it was too close together, or in some rare instances, some people, for whatever reason, are able to, I don't know, work past it. I honestly think there was a probe malfunction, because I think if you get 2 good implantations with these, you know, probes, hooks, harpoons, I like to call them, dude's going down. Dude's going down. That is a Taser C2. Very effective. Great 15-foot range. I think that's more than adequate. It's well built. It's tough. It's legal. An amazing amount of locations. Very portable, especially with that wicked holster. Totally worth the money. High quality. Track record proven. Absolutely worth the money. It is actually my #1 recommended non-lethal self-defense option, preventing me from having to go to this, the gun. And I recommend you do the same. That is a Nut and Fancy C2 Taser review. Good job, Taser. This thing absolutely rocks. Nut and Fancy out.